I've taken the three flowers here that I had from before. I've arranged them on my page and I've lined them up according to my grid, making sure that every place I cross the line, I've got my line set up. What I want you to do today is sort of finish this drawing up, right? So if I look at this and I say, well, I have an excess of negative space here, negative space here. And I already said, well, I have issues with these spaces here. I feel like I want to do something in there. Why do I feel that? Are these two linear? Or are they going to be, like if you look at this flower here and this flower here and this flower here, see how I'm creating an implied line through there? This direction, I also have an implied line, don't I? If I connect this flower and this flower and this flower. So as I start to go in a bigger concept here, I'm like, oh, well, this is going to create this linear thing going this way, and this is going to create a linear thing going that way. I'm back to my grid, aren't I? I'm creating a plaid here pretty much with the flowers. But I want this to read more like an all over. I could blow them up and make them bigger, smaller. So what this lacks here is a variety of scale we need to deal with. We need to deal with a negative space issue. These negative space things sort of look neglected, don't they? Even, it's interesting because a lot of times in our pattern making, we could almost take any painting or any drawing we feel like and put it into repeat and it would be resolved, right? I think that the mentality of people who aren't textile designers is kind of like, well, you can just take anything and put it into an infinite repeat and it'll, you know, this blank space will repeat this blank space, will repeat this blank space, will repeat that blank space, and it'll look like it was meant to happen because it happens over and over again, right? But we're looking at this square right here and we're designing that square also with the concept that it's going to repeat infinitely. So what's going to happen when that square repeats? And that's where this line, because here I'm seeing sort of this line here, but I'm not really seeing this line here happen until I get the repeat going. I'm not seeing this line here happen until I get the repeat going, right? And so I kind of have to put a third flower or a third dot for someone to see a line and connect those 2 points. Okay, so I need to have more of a variety of scale. I need to have more of a negative space. I'm getting a warm cool contrast here too, right? So I'm getting a green, a blue green and a yellow green. I have a red orange, I have an orange, and I have a yellow orange. Yeah, so my color swatches, I'm going to have 5 different color swatches, right? And that's about enough, right? 5 or 6 different colors is all I want to have in a painting. So I've got a warm, cool contrast. I've got a pretty good contrasted value. You're saying that this dark green is my darkest value, right? And this light yellow is my lightest value, and that's going pretty much from like maybe a 2 to an 8 or something like that, right? Okay, so I'm using a fairly full value range. I've got a warm and cool contrast. I've got analogous colors. I'm sort of using analogous, right? In that I'm using, these are all analogous, but then yellow is also analogous to green, right? So I'm not using anything in the purple and blue range, which means I've sort of made a wedge of the color wheel there. How about color continuation? So do you feel like I have the right balance of greens to, or warms to cools? So I could create a contrasted continuation if, instead of having so much red, all of them are about the same, right? There's a lot of orange and red and yellow, a very tiny little bit of green. What you're saying is I could create something where there was a lot of green and a tiny little bit of red and yellow and orange, perhaps. Yeah? Great. My first idea on this was to draw a leaf design in here in one of these negative spaces, because that would create a lot of green, because I feel like I don't have enough green overall to balance out my red, orange, yellow. All right, so I'm going to draw into this space right here a leaf. Do I want to do that onto a sheet of tracing paper? Probably, right? Because if I draw it right here onto the thing, I might want to move it. I might want to shift it, right? I'm going to lay a sheet of tracing paper over top of this. And I'm going to draw into here something I feel like it needs to move in this direction, and that's okay for me to feel it out at this point because I can see what's happening here, right? I'm intuitively reacting to these. This is again a repetition with variation, right? I decided I want to vary my leaves a little bit more as I go along there. I want to start connecting these things to each other. I am going to go ahead and draw this directly onto here. And I'm going to notice that if I put it down here, I'm going to cross my line, right? See where this motif crosses the line here? So I'm going to go back with my marker, and I'm going to take this line right here and I'm going to draw it right through that leaf. I'm going to mark where this X comes through the leaf right there. I'm going to mark another horizontal in there because I need to make sure my horizontals are lining up. That way I can take this line right here, and this line right here, and I can shift this all up to here and make sure that right here that leaf's going to come through again. I'm going to actually fold my paper on that repeat line. I'm going to lay it right here. I'm going to draw that leaf here again. Now I know that my repeat is okay on that line, right? The other way that we talked about doing it was like cutting these out and tracing them, all that kind of stuff. I can lay this underneath. If I pull this up, put this line with that line and that line with this line, then I can just trace this from underneath. Knowing that my repeat right here is okay. It's probably a good idea to take this and actually trace it in the marker, no? Then I can really play with it. I can lay it underneath there and I can see exactly what I'm doing. And I can line these lines up where they're supposed to be. Now there's another thing I'd like to do, and that is I'd like to have this touch this flower. Because I feel like my variation in terms of whether everything's floating or not is becoming problematic, right? I've got 4 designs in here now and they're all floating. I'm going to put another leaf here. Now I have a contrast of a single leaf with a double leaf. I've got this frond, this spray. I feel like I want another one in there. But I want to start connecting these. I want to start making, I'm going to ask myself if this is curvilinear enough. Does this do what I want it to do? Maybe I'm going to go into that and let this come over and come in between and touch this one instead. I want a stem to come out of here and I want it to cross over here. I want this line to come up in between here, I've decided. Change that a little bit. This is going to come along this way. Then I asked myself, do I want a leaf on that stem? Probably. That'll also give me some greens up next to my oranges here. I think I want these guys to attach on a stem. They did originally, but I cut them off. Have that come down like this. I need more interaction with my edges here, don't I? Maybe I want something to come this way, it feels like. So I'm really focusing on the concepts of direction and flow here, right? And if I come down here and connect to that leaf there, then I can move this up to here. And say this needs to flow like that. I had a stem coming out of this. Where was that? Let's see. And here I drew a stem coming across this way. I want to get that in. I think I want these guys to attach to something. They're going to come out from here. I'm going to trace these flowers now too. At this point, because I resolved my colorway and where those reds are going to go and where the oranges are going to go, I can go ahead and draw those on here too, knowing that my hard edges of color are going to repeat as well, so that every time I paint them, I've got the same shapes happening over and over and over again. It could be that I want to make a little paint by number in here, right? Maybe I want to put a little R in here for red, a little O right here for orange, a little Y right here for yellow. You may want to use a light box. You may want to put this up against a window. When I first laid this out, of course, I was just making marks to kind of make notes to myself of where things are going to lie. But now I'm drawing shapes that I'm going to paint in later. When I painted the shapes up here, I was a little looser with them. I was playing with the paintbrush and just making marks, all that kind of thing. So that's going to be the major area of my painting, but then I need to do a repeat of 3 inches. So I need to come down here and I need to make sure that I'm getting the things drawn out that I'm seeing in there, abstracting the shapes so that I can replicate them and repeat them with my paintbrush. Once I get this all worked out onto my tracing paper, I need to go in with my marker probably and trace this with my marker actually, so that then I can put this all on a light box underneath my watercolor paper or put it on a window and get it transferred. Because artwork is a series of decisions and redecisions. My first idea is never my best. Add one more element in because I like the idea of adding a smaller, since they're all about the same size, I want to put in a smaller bit of orange and yellow. So I'm adding that in now, just to increase my contrast. I'm going to keep it the same color so I maintain my harmony.